Hello, brick sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and welcome to part 3 of my tree builder series. Now, this one is particularly exciting for me because we're doing a pine tree. More specifically, just a conifer. It doesn't have to be a pine. There's lots of different conifers out there, and they all have the same basic shape for the most part. So I'm going to give you a basic conifer tree here. And as you might know on my channel, I absolutely love making pines and conifers. I've done a couple of videos, the first one being the Ultimate Pine Tree 1.0, which still looks great, but at this point is getting a little outdated as far as my building goes. I then followed it up with the Ultimate Pine Tree 2.0, a very common design that you see nowadays a lot. And we're not going to call this one 3.0, but I'll tell you what, I like this design so much. After building this design, I tinkered around with a larger version. The Ultimate Pine Tree 3.0 is coming soon, but it's inspired by this build. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to start with the base. First off, I love this base. This looks so good. We'd never use it in the city, but it's awesome for putting one tree on. And a trunk. Now for the trunk, I like to use pin connectors just because they're smoother. And the one disadvantage is this piece spins. If you have a way of fixing that, let me know. But that I don't love. But other than that, I like them better than 1x1 rounds. If you prefer 1x1 round, it'll work all the same. And you can make the trunk as tall or as short as you want, just depending on what kind of conifer you're going for. But there's our start there. 2 pin connectors connected together on our base. And now we need to add some branches going up. Now the basic structure of this tree is going to look like this. We're going to build it around Travis bricks. So I can go ahead and put my Travis brick on there. And all of the limbs are going to look like this. It's just a stack of these flower stem pieces. Now the first layer is going to have 5 of these 3 branch pieces in regular green. Now I decided to mix the colors up on this. Conifers are often a little darker in color. And obviously this is the least expensive version of this part you can buy in the regular green. Dark green in these are quite expensive, but I think adding a nice touch of color, we can put a dark green, one of these 6 branches at the end. And it's a nice mix of greens, and in the end you'll see it looks really good. So I have 4 of these. All of them have 5 of the 3 branch pieces and 1 6 branch on the end. I also have a full parts list down in the description, and I'm going to make a second version of this after I finish this one that's a little bit more complex and has a little different colors, so I'll have that listed there as well. And we're just going to put those going outward from the center there. Now from here, it's pretty simple. We're going to basically wash, rinse, repeat. So there's layer 1. Layer 2 is actually going to be identical. It's also 5 of these 3 branch pieces, 3 stem pieces, and the 6 on the end. So it's exactly the same as the first layer, and then we're just going to alternate. And it'll fill in all the gaps nicely, and we can work our way up. Now we're just going to start to get smaller and smaller as we go up. This one here is 4 branches, and then 1 6 branch on the end. So 4 of the 3 stem pieces and 1 6 branch on the end. We're also going to make one with 3 stems, 2 3 stems, 1 3 stem, and no 3 stems, just the 6 branch pieces. Now this is not going to be all in order. I have to add something there to mix it up, or this is going to look very kind of boring going up the tree. It would work, and you'd probably want to add more layers if this is all you're going to do. But I'm actually going to add 3 more layers in between these as I go up. So for the first 4 layers, it's just going to be these. So we have 5 3 stems and 1 6 stem, 5 3 stems, 1 6 stem, and then 4 3 stems, 1 6 stem is our next layer. And then 3 3 stems, 1 6 stem is our 4th layer. And this is a lot like building any artificial Christmas tree if you've ever done it. Very similar technique. It is very parts heavy, but it is going to look nice and detailed in the end. So now we have a nice start, and here's where we're going to start to mix it up a little bit. Now for the next layer, we're going to build it a little differently. See, on a lot of conifers, I find that one of 2 things is going to happen. The branches are either going to sag down or they're going to stick up. And in this case, I want to make them come down a little bit. Just depends on the species of tree. They vary a little bit. So this one, we're going to make some branches that hang down. The way we're going to do that, we're going to take a Travis brick. For spacing purposes, I'm going to put one 1x1 plate on there. You can do a round one if you want, but since I'm using Travis bricks, the squared off thing works, and you're not really going to see the inside of the tree much. And then we're just going to put 4 of these 45-degree angle minifig posing stands in green around the outside. There we go. And then you can put branches directly on here, and that's how I did when I first built this tree, but I decided to add these 1x1 rounds because it makes for a little firmer hold. You know, when you put these directly on here, the plant piece doesn't go all the way in, so it is somewhat easy to knock off. If you do it this way, it holds a lot firmer, so that's what I recommend. And we're just going to put a 1 3-branch, and then this end one is not a 6-branch. It's a 3-branch, but in dark green. The 6-branch is going to get a little cluttered if you use it for this, so I recommend mixing it up because otherwise it's going to interfere a little bit with what we've already put on the tree. So these are just going to hang downward all the way around that trunk, and then we're going to put it in the gaps, you know, so we're going to alternate just like we did with the other layers. And you might have to kind of play with it a little bit. Sometimes they'll interfere. You might have to twist the branches a little bit to get it down there, but it'll fill in that gap very nicely there. So next layer, we're going to go back to this design here. 2 3-branch and 1 6-branch on each side. And we're actually going to put this over the angled branches. So it's going to leave a pretty big gap here, but we're going to fill that in with the next angled branch. The next one is going to be the same as that last layer, but I am going to add one more branch piece in here. It's actually longer than that layer, just to fill in the gaps better. So it's going to have the same design, 2 3 stem pieces, and then a 3 stem in dark green on the end. No 6 stems on these ones. And when I put that on, it will fill in these gaps very nicely. Again, you may have to play with it a little bit. Things are going to touch a little, but if you twist them around, move them, everything will fit and will fit legally. There's just a lot of pieces there that can interfere. Starting to take shape. Next layer, we're going to go with another one of these. This is just a single on each side. And again, we're going to put it over the angled branches. Now for the next layer, we're going to do another hanging down layer, but we're going to mix it up a little bit. So on this one, we're going to go back to just having the 1 3 stem piece and then 1 in dark green on the end. And we're going to take out those 1x1 rounds. Because we're getting skinnier at the top of the tree, we need to get these as close to the center as possible. You'll also notice the Travis brick is now upside down. We're going to connect this one a little bit differently. And that's also one of the reasons we need to get these a little bit closer, is we're going to put a bar through the middle. And with that bar in the middle, you can't have these pushed in super far or they'll hit and they won't allow this bar to run through. So I have a 4 long bar here, and as you can see, these do fall off a little bit easier when you don't have those 1x1 rounds on there. So be careful with it. But I'm going to have that poke through just a little bit, enough to connect this to the below layer. And when you put this on, you may need to fiddle with it a little bit. It is a legal connection. Just some things may touch, so you need to kind of move them around as you put it on. And now that is on there. So our last layer before we get to the top is this one here. We just have the 6 branch pieces around a Travis brick. It is going to go upside down. And this one we are going to alternate. So it sits opposite of the hanging down layer. And then on top of this, I want to put a green 1x1 round plate with open stud just to cap that off so it's not open. And then on the very top, our classic pine tree top, I'm going to stack 4 3-branch pieces, 2 green, 2 dark green, and just alternate them and put that right in the middle. And that is our basic pine tree. And I think this turned out just awesome. You know, it looks really nice. You can still see plenty of trunk. It's not all super dense. Got a lot of different textures going on. I think it looks super realistic. Now, I did want to take this to kind of the next level, so I made one more and just kind of tried to dress it up a little bit more. In my city, this would be perfectly acceptable. I'd have no problem displaying that in my city, but I wanted to just see if I could push it a little bit. So I have two different designs. Both of them, like I said, are in the description as far as parts lists, and I'll show you what I came up here for the other one. So for the second tree, the top is all exactly the same. And this starts with the first angled layer and goes up. So that portion is completely unchanged. All the differences I made are at the bottom of the tree here. So let's start with a trunk. Now you'll notice my trunk is a little bit shorter. Again, you can make this as tall or as short as you want, just depending on the preference for the species of tree you're doing and the build you're trying to do. I decided to add another layer in here of branches. And what I did is I took these 1x1s with bar on them, and I stuck these on here. Now, if you look at a lot of conifers, pine trees and things, they will often have a bunch of dead branches at the bottom. You know, as they grow, they kind of die off on the bottom and grow upward. And so I'm trying to mimic that here with this build. The next layer is a layer that is not in that tree. I'm not replacing a layer, I'm adding one. And that looks like this. It's a Travis brick with 2 reddish brown 3-stem pieces and 1 dark brown 6-stem piece on each side. And this is just going to look like the dead branches underneath the tree here. So you can see it's going to have a lot of detail down here at the base. The next layer up is the same, but I did change the color. So instead of doing all green 3-stem pieces, I did 2 reddish brown ones first, which also play into that dead undergrowth look. If you ever go underneath a pine tree and look up it, the inside is all just like bare branches, some dead, some not, but they have no leaves or needles or anything on them. They're just bare. And that's what I'm trying to mimic here. So on the next layer, I did the same thing, just changed 2 of those on each side to reddish brown. And you can see the color difference and how realistic that looks from the bottom now. The next layer, I just did 1 in reddish brown. And the next layer, also 1 in reddish brown. And from there, like I said, the whole top is the same. So we can just line this up carefully. Stick it on there. And you can just see that added detail down at the bottom there with all those branches and sticks. And I think it just looks a lot more realistic that way. But like I said, I would use either of these in my city. I just like that base a lot better. Well, that's all I have for this time. I hope you guys like this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm going to do more just like this in the future. That's all I have for this time, and we will see you next time.